covers the basics of continuous improvement, how the 5 lean elements are connected to the continuous improvement. We'll talk about the 7 kind of ways that we identify through the value stream mapping. One of the core of to the lean principles is that it does improve your processes, cut down the cycle time, improves the productivity without the significant investment. We have seen the organizations today running the larger programs to improve their processes, improving their customer satisfaction, but they require a significant worth of investment. Whereas the Toyota production system that were originally designed by the Toyota company in Japan had designed this way of improving the processes so that it does not require a significant investment. So investments are always insignificant. We typically say if you spend more than $2,000 on improving your process, it does not qualify as a lean methodology. It requires much lesser than any other process improvement methodologies, for example, Six Sigma or Agile or Waterfall, whatever you see. Simplified. So if I talk about how do we, what kind of the benefits we have achieved through the Six Sigma program or the Lean program at Agilent India. It simplified the business process, less number of steps to all of the processes. So I have implemented it in a way that it is not only one single function, but we have implemented the Lean program across the finance, service, sales, COPC, that is customer operations, our CSO organization. All of them are taking benefit of it. We do automate some of the manual work through one-click solutions. Here we have improved the quality and turnaround time of our product and services that actually delivers the loyal customers to the company. The faster turnaround time, of course, that gives us the edge over the competition by reducing the lead times. It increases the employee satisfaction because of the less number of process steps, less errors happening, reduce the rework. So if I talk about the last year, we have delivered 8,000 man hours of savings at an average. And this year, even I am going to get much more than that. Total 5,000 K dollar, US dollar and more savings we have achieved through this program, and 45 participants today are certified as lean champion from my side within the company. Those are actually contributing to the process improvement day to day. Or at an average, we have 26%, 1/4 cycle time reduction for all of our process across it. And the participation from all the teams is very essential part for value stream mapping, overall development, as well as the lean implementation across organization. So current participation rate is greater than 40% of the employees are already lean trained in various functions. So the program that we have implemented here is pretty successful, and in fact within the company other countries are also adopting the similar kind of framework that I have developed here within the India function. When we go into the lean manufacturing, it is an expanded vision. Basically, it started with the Toyota production system in Japan that just after the World War II, when Japan was devastated due to the World War and then the atomic bombing on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. They wanted to rebuild their country. And then two of the engineers, one of them is Ohno, and then another one went to the Ford manufacturing factory in US to understand their manufacturing practices. And they say the Ford was very good at making the cars, but they had the significant investment. But Japan did not have that kind of resources. So they developed their own manufacturing system that is called Toyota production system, where they could gain the maximum efficiency with the minimum investment in the resources and technologies. And this is how the Toyota production system or lean started there. Later on, because today the world has moved on to the ITES services, the same principle also apply to the service industry also. And then we are using it pretty efficiently in our office environment, in our day-to-day work processing, and in the services that we are delivering to the customer, it is equally applicable. All we need to learn is to create analogy between the Toyota production system practices and how they can be adopted in the service industry. So this overall frameworks helps both in manufacturing as well as in the uh, service industry as such. Now let us think of an example, a recent trip that we would have taken through the aeroplane, because before going into the value stream mapping, we need to understand the fundamental. Think of a recent trip you would have taken, and you went through many process steps from starting from your home till reaching the destination. It is a 20-step process that I have listed here. If from the customer's perspective, of our perspective, if we clearly see the areas where we are actually satisfied, or we see at a value from the as a customer point of view, and non-value adds steps, so let us do that study. So driving to the airport, parking, and then waiting to the ticket. If I ask you to mark them either green or red, what would be your point of view? Let us do this quickly. So I am asking you to mark only those steps, those are green, as green, those you find out as a value while you are traveling from your home to a destination. How about point number one, driving to the airport, parking? Is it a value? You can just unmute and let me
No.
know. Driving, not a value, you see?
No, it is critical. Without driving, how you'll reach the airport?
But why parking?
No, I am just
Drive
talking
to
about
airport.
point number one.
Mhm.
Shall I mark it as a value?
Okay.
Right. How about two? Waiting for the ticket.
No.
No, for sure.
Amit, is it need to be go in a sequential order? I don't think so. Maybe we can identify very critical ones first, and remaining one we can discuss.
Are already waste. Right. How about three?
No.
No.
Four?
No.
Wherever
Five?
wait is there, I feel it's no.
By default, they are right. So one of the 7 kind of waste under the lean, the waiting time is considered as a waste. But other than that, proceed to the ticket counter, proceeding to the process, security checkpoint.
Yeah, that is mandatory, right?
Gate.
Compliance.
Yeah, and then we talk about taxi and flight time. This is absolute value that we are looking for. For this, we have paid, right?
Yeah.
But then proceeding to the baggage claim, proceeding to the rental call shuttle, and so on. So basically what we will see that out of a 20-step process, some of the things based on your own assumption also see. So the perception of a person may be different from the another one. When we talk about the absolute value, the any traveling that is either from office home to the airport, and then the taxi time of flight itself, and then wapis the car rental to the home or the destination would be value. Rest of them will be waste. But if you talk about the from the perspective of the airport authority, if you discuss about the perspective of the airline, they will say many of these steps are essential, or they would say it is a value add for them. But one thing we need to understand is when we talk about the lean structure, it is all the customer that needs to be. So anybody who is doing the value stream mapping, one of the key challenge will always be faced that it will be difficult for you to put yourself in the shoe of customer. You will think the process from the customer's perspective. On the other hand, what we want is that you the person who is doing the value stream mapping needs to think from the customer's perspective, not from the processor system perspective. And when we see that, we always say, I mean, a typical case study said out of the 11 hours of travel that we do, almost 4 hours or 1/3 is wasted. And that is the one of the typical, the characteristic of value and value stream mapping is that there will be no step that is entirely a value added step. There is no process that is entirely a waste step, but you will always find them so merged together that it becomes difficult to identify the steps. Those are not adding a value from the customer's perspective and adding the value from the customer's perspective. to differentiate between these steps required the value stream mapping. Because many a times the people may ask that we already have the flow chart, we have the problem statement with us, why cannot we simply go and implement the changes? The problem is that not all of the steps would be visible. So I always say what we see as the flow chart or at that high level of the process in our processing on day-to-day basis is just tip of the iceberg. And we all know that Titanic did not sink because of the tip, but the part that was underlying the sinks. So basically, the lean helps you in identifying the steps. Those are including the inefficiencies, reworks, delays, errors in the processes, and value stream mapping is the tool that help us to identify those. So now suspend all the disbeliefs of what can be done, what cannot be done, and imagine a different travel process. Let us see that. Drive to the airport, parking employee takes your card and the curb sign and drops your package into security. Then you have the biometric scanning system. Carry on baggage is scanned while you are walking and it is automatically put in your aeroplane. When you actually board the plane and carry on the baggage is put in the personalized seat locker, then you have flight. And when you deplane, you just need to board the pre-booked taxi and the airport staff already puts your bag in that pre-booked taxi. I know, very ideal process. Looks like interesting.
Yeah,
But now,
good for first class passengers. Yeah.
yeah, good. So, now take a setback and think for a moment. Why does we do have this travel story, horror travel story? Why don't we really can implement this change into the process itself? Why we do not have this idealistic? Any points or any bottlenecks that you find?
Yeah, security for sure. And compliance.
Security or compliance other than that? But we were talking about biometric scanning and there could always be the X-ray scanners also, right?
And cost also, right? Everything is expensive, right? You need to invest money, scanners and all.
Right. How about the technological bottlenecks? Sometimes we don't have the enough technology to adapt something.
Yeah, sure.
So let us look at what could be the basic problems. Lack of customer focus is the key area here. We do not think the process from the customer's perspective here. And then the inflexible infrastructure is one of the another point. Often when I am actually evaluating value stream mapping for the processes, I do see that either they have not considered the process from the end results point of view. They say that it has been done for last 5 years like this. We have not received a complaint, that's why we don't why we did not do any change. And second thing is then sometimes the infrastructure they have developed, the people has created their own way of doing the things. They do not want to change them, and then the technology is not yet available. And one of the good thing about is if the people those are using the Microsoft technologies today, the SharePoint, Power Automate, Power BI, and Advanced Excel, these things are actually able to help us to automate some of our data analysis things, and they are also there to facilitate the auto reports running alerts. I have also created some of the scripts with help of the experts. Those can even scan and process all of our invoices automatically. So the technology is upgrading today. With the processes those were designed 10 years ago does not need to be the same way today. And especially if I talk about travel industry is stuck in a rut, but we are not from the travel industry, so we don't talk about it. But the way the people are doing the process, I see the major problem is that they say that everything is good, we don't need to change. Taking the risk an important part of upgrading the processes, and being more customer focused is another essential part. Now, when we see our processes from the internal perspective, we do not find any opportunity. And here is where the value stream mapping helps us. So when we talk about the lean framework, let me first cover the lean definition. So basically, lean is a quality-oriented thought process that identifies the waste, especially that is defined by the customers, and determine the appropriate ways to remove it. The one of the key thing that I really like about the lean is when we identify the 7 kind of waste within the same framework, we do have the recommendation how we can eliminate them also. It is not a problem finding tool, but it is also a problem solving tool. So when we do the value stream mapping and identify the 7 kind of ways through it, we do, if we are lean trained, we do have the right ways to solve them also. So as we will learn later, Lean and Six Sigma and other quality improvement tools share a common language, and that language is, eliminating the variance, eliminating the dependencies, eliminating the waste steps from the process. Whatever we are talking about is, it is the thought process. Any person who is actually driving a organizational level or even their functional level, continuous improvement efforts, it is all in the mind that they first need to develop their thought process around it. I would always say the quality is not a tool, but it is a thought process. It is the way how do we look at the customer satisfaction, how do we look at the any inefficiencies in the process. And once we do have that kind of mindset, rest of the things then follow. And before eliminating the waste that I am going to talk about, it is important that we should be aware that what are the kind of waste we need to look for, and then eliminating them becomes easy once we do have a clear identification of them. Ultimately, the goal is to remove these waste, because when we actually reduce the values, the cycle time of the process, it is essential that whatever bottlenecks in the processes we have identified, we need to eliminate that. Any questions so far?
It's fine.
So
You're going good, Amit. Thanks for that.
Thank you. So principle of continuous improvement, we always heard the word Kaizen. So basically Kaizen is made up of the 2 separate words. The number 1 is Kai and then Zen. The Kai means take apart. It means splitting the overall process into the small steps. It is very essential that we do not see output as a process stage-wise delivery, but we really need to differentiate, or I would say, split our 1 stage process into 5 or 10 small activity areas. Only then you would be able to identify the waste. As we see later on, never a complete box or a kind of a work being done at 1 stage will be identified as a waste. It will barely happen. So what happens, let me take an example of manufacturing line. A user who is getting the input from the previous stage, doing some inspection, then adding some more component into the overall assembly, and then moving it to the next stage, you will identify, I cannot mark this complete process a 2 minutes stack time as a waste. But what happens when we actually break those 2 minutes time into 10 or 20-second steps, that you will identify the opportunities there, that why the reinspection is required. I often ask the processors in our teams that why you are doing the reinspections, why the process itself is not foolproof, or as we say poka-yoke in terms of lean, that is do not require any rework or reinspection by the next step. So basically what I am trying to say is that when you actually have a complete process flow across your value stream mapping, it becomes difficult to identify a complete set of the steps as waste. We really need to dissect a process or activity into the small steps, and then we can make it better. That is the principle of continuous improvement of Kaizen. So not as a complete activity, but the small steps. We first take apart and then make it back up. Lean history, as I said, that P. Ono and S. Shinjo were the people. Those actually went to the Motorola, this Ford factory, and they developed the concept of TPS. On the other hand, if we talk about the Six Sigma, it was developed by Motorola. E. Deming and J. Juran were the people. Those developed it. There are a couple of good videos about the histories about these two methodologies. But today, if you say the Lean Six Sigma, it is an integrated version of Lean and Six Sigma. We will see that how do they integrate with each other. So often the people come to us saying that a particular improvement effort they want to do, either it is qualifying as a Lean or it's Six Sigma. So my answer to that would be, if you want to eliminate the waste, create a flow in the process, you want to improve the productivity, and solution is evident within the current process step, it is a Lean project. On the other hand, the core of the Six Sigma, or where we should actually be adopting the Six Sigma, is where you have the variability in the process, where you see that productivity changes day to day, where you say that defect trend of the process is not consistent, and you really need to increase the reliability or capability of the process. That is a Six Sigma project. Lean we do typically in 2 to 4 weeks time, whereas the Six Sigma takes up to 6 months of time. Lean is not a statistical methodology. It really required just the general knowledge of the process, and anybody who is trained on the Lean can apply it, whereas Six Sigma requires some of the statistical concepts also. So it tend to be more complex. But definitely based on the scope, complexity of the project, we really need to identify whether it is going for the Lean or the Six Sigma methodology. Now I will show you that how do the Lean and Six Sigma, because today if you see in the industry, the best practice is Lean Six Sigma, not a separate Lean and Six Sigma. How do they work together? So think of a process here when you have the multiple steps, delays, handoffs within the process, and due to which we are getting the errors and inefficiencies. So the method here is first to apply the Lean and identify the wasteful activities and eliminate that. What happens after applying the Lean to the process? It becomes the streamlined process like this. Now you know how my process flow works from end to start to end, and then you apply the Six Sigma on the process to improve the overall capability of the process. So Lean and Six Sigma basically applied in a sequential manner. Sometimes you would be able to achieve your target by just applying the Lean, and then it is a great a continuous improvement, I would say. But on the other hand, in some of the processes, often we see that say at the end of a Lean project, we do identify some of the activity those require the larger kind of the analysis, the statistical testings, and then implementation through some of the new technologies. Then I move the second stage of that project as a Six Sigma project. One of the key area we need to understand about the overall Lean framework is Ono's fundamentals. So as I said, the Ono is one of the supervisor from the manufacturing line of Toyota, and he went to the US to understand few things. So he said that never become the expert of your process. Whenever you think that I am the expert, then you go back to the production line, sit on somebody's desk for a few hours or say half an hour, and then again see the opportunities there. If you think that you have become the expert of some process, you will not have a mindset to improve it further. Develop the grassroots activities. It means, as I said, then you do not see the complete value chain as one single flow, but differentiate it, dissect it into the small activities, and then identify the ideas of improvement there. Challenge the people to improve their own processes. One of the key area about the value stream mapping is that it should be made by the people those are doing the work, not by some expert or process engineer or a supervisor. The best value stream mapping is done by the person who is doing the process, and we should always use both the labor and the brain power of our employees in order to be successful as an organization. Ono said we should actually teach everyone. We should mentor the mentors, and then they should mentor other people across the line. As I said today in my organization, we have more than 40% of the people already included in the process. So one of the key activity he used to do is Gamba. So let us learn about what we say as Gamba in manufacturing. Gamba means go and see. So what he used to do is whenever he thought that somebody has become the expert on the process line and he do not see further opportunity, he used to go to the production line, make a chalk circle, and he used to ask the supervisor or that person to stand there and see how the process is happening for at least an hour or so. So after an hour, he used to ask that what is the inefficiency you see in this process, and they definitely had some of the process improvement areas identify in that 1 hour of observing. So Gamba means go and see. Usually we do make the opinion about the processes. We meet in the meeting room and decide the root cause of the problems, and we also decide the further action items. One of the major tendency in the organizations today are, to say it is a human error. We try to assign the error to some human, but this is not how the owner would say. 80 to 85% of defects in any process, as W. Deeming says, are due to the process, tools, and policies, not due to the human. Uh, this is a study he did for 10 years across the organizations. So E. Deeming was basically the quality guru who has written many of the books about the quality. If you read them, he said that human error is just another excuse. 80 to 85% of the errors happening in the processes are due to the faulty tools, processes, or incorrect policies that we have adopted. And this is what the ONO also said. Go and see the process at own. Any questions so far?
No questions, Amit. Thanks.
Are you also going to relate it to IT?
Right, yeah.
Yeah, sure.
So one of the tool that I will show you is one of the case study I will show you is related to IT. I have many value stream mappings because specifically Agilent in India is not doing the manufacturing. So all of the continuous improvement that I do is in ITES enabled environment. So I do have various examples of same. I show you that. So before going into value stream mapping, we need to understand three basic kind of process steps that we identify. Number one, customer added value. This is the green, marked as green in value stream mapping. It is unambiguous creation of value. Something that the customer is willing to pay for it. It alters the product or process output, and it must be done right first time. So these are the three definition or the questions you need to ask yourself when you are marking something as value or waste in your processes. Let me take an example. We are going to the airport, and then there is a toll tax on the road, and government says that it will facilitate the faster driving. But let us see the toll tax that where you have actually waited for 10 minutes to get through it. So that toll, is the customer willing to pay for it?
No.
So your
If it saves in 20
With
kilometers
this
and
value,
time,
with this value,
so
if
we
there is a
really
value, yes, yeah.
So basically, there was a path like this, and then you have the toll
Yeah.
here, and then probably. So depending upon the case, probably you are willing to pay for it, right? So my first question is connected here. It must alter the process, product, or process, or the ways output. So basically, when we are paying the toll again, without this toll tax or without this new highway, we used to travel from here to there. That was 25 kilometer, and now this has reduced my time to 10 kilometer. My travel, right? So probably my second question, that alters the product or process output. It means we are doing something that is not already done in the process. So it is altering the output. Now another step That is, it must be done right first time. Now, any billing that is happening at the toll and it is not causing us further delay into the process and we are going through it very smoothly, so we can say it is done right first time. I just paid the toll and passed through it. So in this case, all of the three definitions are passed unless we have any bottleneck. But even if there is one bottleneck here, that the toll is there, but my tag is not working, and you need to pay it by cash, that actually adds the plus 5 minutes of delay. In this case, if I am making a value stream mapping, I will add it as a non-value add for the customer because it is not being done right first time. So one of the important aspect you need to understand is these definition 1, 2, and 3 are not marked as or. Logically, they are marked as and. It means the process step that you want to apply as the green, it has to pass all three definitions. And let us take another example, because most of my the trainees in the classes do fail to identify the things as customer added value and waste in the first go. They do have some of the the confusion around it. That's why let me take another example. There was a process step in which one person has booked an invoice in the system, and it goes to another step who actually validates that. For the date, he validates for the amount, he validates for the the lead time, and he also validates it for the what I would say the quantity of the material, and then he passes on and it goes to the next step. This is a very typical case from my teams. So what you say as the three definition on the step number A, and I will also ask you to apply these three definition to the step number B. Let us talk about the step number A. The person who has received the invoice has actually entered that in the system after the validation. So from the customer point of view, or the here, let us say the customer is the vendor who is going to get the money out of this invoice. Is something that he will be willing to pay for it, this process step? I'm talking about the stage number A. What do you think?
Sorry, Amit, I didn't get the question.
The question is, there is an invoice process
Okay.
in a team where person A has booked the invoice in the system, and then the supervisor, who is B, is actually validating the same information. Is it correct or not? And then he pass it on to the finance department to pay that invoice. My question is, we are
All right.
evaluating
So
the
this is
stage number
not
A and B.
this is not the toll example. We are in the different example.
No,
right?
that whole example is finished. I have taken another example now.
All right. Now I got it. Yeah, please go ahead. Thank you.
So the step A, who has actually booked the invoice, the operator A, who received the invoice from the vendor and booked it into the system. Now I am trying to identify his work as either the value or the waste from the vendor's point of view. Okay, so the person A who has actually added the invoice into the system, my question is, if I go by the definition number 1, something the customer is willing to pay for it. Is it worth for the customer? Is he willing to pay for it?
Yes, right. He's getting value.
We can say, I mean, to my point of view, we can say yes, he will be willing to pay for it, because unless the invoice is booked in the system, how he can really be paid, right?
Yeah, it's not thrown out or like it, but once it's in the system, then it will expedite or something, like at least it started, initiated. So basically willing to pay, I think.
He's willing to pay. Okay, right? Let us go to the next definition. Alters the product or process output. It means that it should not be pre-existing in the system. What do you think?
Not willing to pay.
I am talking about the definition number 2 on the work being done by operator A. And if I talk about the step number 2, alter the product or process output. Does it apply in this scenario? See, this invoice was not there in the system, right? It is the operator A.
Yes, it will alter the process output. So if it will check if the duplicates are there or not, kind of like
it will check,
validate.
and if it is not
It will
existing,
validate. Yes, it
validate
will validate
and enter it.
existence. Yes.
So definition number 2 also passes here.
Yes.
Fine. Let us go to definition number 3 of customer added value. That is must be done right first time. So the
Yes.
person has entered it according to the invoice. He has entered the values into the system.
It should
Yeah,
be done
right.
first time, right?
So
So
shouldn't
in
go back
this
and
case,
forth, correction time and all this waste of time, right?
if it is going back and forth, then it is definitely a waste. But in ideal scenario, all the work being done by the stage A is a value addition. Okay. Now come to the work being done by person B, who is validating the information before actually asking finance or approving finance to pay this invoice. And I think of the perspective again, these three definitions. Something the customer is willing to pay for. Stage number B, who is validating the information. What do you think?
No.
ये जो बंदा है यहाँ पे, the person who is sitting here as the vendor, will he be willing to pay for it?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, so first definition fails here. Now let us go to the definition number 2. Alter the product or process output. It means it makes some change in the system that was not pre-existing. What do you think? Does the definition number 2 applies?
Output should still remain same, so I don't think it will alter the product's output as well.
It is not altering the output. The invoice is already in the system as booked by person A, right?
Right.
Now the definition number 3 must be done right first time. What do you think?
Yeah, the
Yeah,
validation is
yeah.
important, right, Amit? What if the invoice is has a wrong amount? Or
That is a good point of view, Jiva.
yeah,
But what others tell? What do you think?
But if it's done right first time, then I mean there is no chances of like fixing the invoices.
So Jiva, to answer your question, let us come to your point. There was a process who were manufacturing a power supply for you. Let's say your laptop power supply. There was a whole lot of reliability testing on the production line. They were doing it, but what happened in some of the cases, the power supply did not turn up at the customer's end. Okay, the company had a meeting and they decided that despite of all the testing, we do have a problem with the capacitor that fails very frequently. Let us put up another resource on the line that increases the quality and it avoids any of the failures at the customer end. So the person will turn on the power supply, test it and give it to the customer. Now it saves the time of the customer. He is not getting the faulty power supplies. The customer has put a resource there. There is no defect. Everybody is happy. Think of this scenario. Okay. As a customer, what is your feeling about it?
yeah, because I get what I want, right? There is no ambiguity. Reliability is always there. I can be sure that I'll always get power, which is the main purpose of my business.
All right. Now come to the point. For whom the company makes the products? For customers?
Yes.
From where the companies get the money?
From the end customer.
With the customers. Any one single step that is being done by the operator on the production line, who pays for it?
It's the company, like
and ultimately it is you who is paying for it. So
yeah, the production cost increase.
Ultimately the end customer has to pay the cost of anything. The difference between the Toyota cars or any other cars, why they are more cost effective and you get the better mileage cars within the same cost, is that Toyota makes the things right first time. adding the more operators or more testing steps on the production side actually adds the more expenses. Even the one single step where you are adding a testing, making the customer happy, you need to understand that it is the customer who is going to pay for it. And if not today, ultimately tomorrow, the cost of the product will increase. So basically what happens, one of the lean fundamental that let me tell you is, and that is little bit outside, I'm going on the finance side since this question has arrived. The traditional way and the lean way of creating the revenues. The traditional way of generating, here we do have the cost of the product. Here we have the profit, and this gives us the selling price of the product. Very simple mathematics. If you want, this is the traditional way. If you want to increase your profit, what a company will do is keep the cost as constant, increase the selling price, that increases their profit. But then, of course, you have the competition around. But the lean or smarter way of increasing the profit is keep the selling price as same, decrease your cost, that increases your profit. To decrease your cost, you really need to reduce the cost of quality. You cannot compromise with the reliability. You cannot compromise with the features. Indeed, you need to add more and more feature to your product over the time and to be competitive in the market. The one control that you have on your profitability is reducing the cost by not reducing the quality. And how you can do that is do the things right first time. And in the terms of lean, it is called Pokayoke, mistake proofing. We will see some examples of it. So it appeared that adding the one more process step or adding one more tester on the production line has avoided the defects passing to the customer. The customer is happy spontaneously. The company is also happy spontaneously. But in long term, the cost of that person, of that checkpoint, is also going to be billed to the customer. If you do not increase your selling price, it will reduce your profit because you have actually increased your cost. If you increase your selling price, and if there is a company who is more efficient than you, without increasing the selling price, they are giving you the good quality, you will have competitive disadvantage in the market. Does that clears your doubt? That's why at the start of the session, I said the lean is already about thought process. Every penny spent is every penny count. The lean is all about improving your process efficiency without additional cost. Once we have actually this thought process developed in us, we become a lean champion.
Amit,
Any questions?
Without any cost or without a minimal cost? In my opinion, I think, yeah, it is not zero cost, but actually very, very, very minimum.
Insignificant. So typically we say up to $2,000, I allow it. If somebody is coming to me saying that I am going to save a 0.5 resource or 1,000 man hours per year, it cost me $4 to $5K. One resource cost is around $8K. So if somebody is going to save $4 to $5K for me and asking for $2K worth of investment, I still have positive ROI. But if it is asking for $5K of investment and it is also going to save me the same man hours, no, it is not a lean project. So insignificant, sometimes what happens, we need to fine tune some of the features. We need to do a training in order to do something more efficiently. We need to develop a macro. We need to adopt some of the technology as a part of improvement. As far as the cost of the the cost of implementation versus the benefit we are going to get over a year is much more than I mean, the benefit are more than the cost. We do pass such kind of scenarios, but typically the best lean projects are the ones, and you will see that in the value stream mapping example, where we stop doing something that is not related to the customer directly, that is not adding a value to the customer. So the step that I am telling you, the case study that we have done, somebody was booking an invoice in the system and somebody else was just testing is just to avoid the defect being passed on to the customer. The best lean project will be where at least 50% of the reinspection that is being done could be avoided by applying the lean methodologies, by applying the mistake proofing, by actually improving our inbuilt quality of the product rather than quality by inspection. So best is that if you could really avoid doing the re-inspections, not increasing the cost, but in some of the cases, if you requires a minimal cost, yes, that's acceptable. We are right. Shall we move forward?
Yes, Amit. Thanks for
anything that is not directly related to your operational process, but it is being done due to the systems or policies, it is called operational added value. Let me take you an example. There is a software that actually backups the data every day, because if someday the server fails, the backup will be able to help us in that scenario. This is operational added value. The software that runs on the front end, giving some information to the customer, does not directly include your backup part. The customer is not willing to pay for it. He does not require you to do a backups, but you are doing for the sake of your own company, for the sake of your own security. Another example could be we are logging into the system, we are downloading some information, and then start working on that. So because the downloading of the system is designed in such a way, you need to log into the system, download the report first. This will be called as operational added value. And then the third category is non-added value. It is clearly non-value activity like reinspection that fails any one or all three of these definitions. In value stream mapping, you need to do these three color codings. That's why it is important to understand what these color coding is all about. Okay, so let me go to one of the case study. How did we started the project? How did we achieve what was actually intended to be achieved? First of all, before starting any of the project, you really need to do build a project charter. So I am going you one of the project charter where assurance of supply for the process is very important. There was a part that was being delivered to the customers, and then there was the problem with the reliability or I would say the quality of the component that we were receiving from our vendors. We started a lean project that we want to basically develop a framework where before the part going into the Agilent's product, we first do the value engineering, value analysis at our end, reliability analysis at our end, so that later on it does not fail on the product line. So this was the project charter that we built for it. Some of the critical factors of developing a project charters is the problem statement. You need to define what is the problem you are trying to solve. The opportunity statement, where you will tell that what are the opportunities we have in order to improve the processes, and then you should be having a very well defined the goal statement. So we always say that goal should always be SMART. Have somebody heard about? I think it has paused the. Has anybody heard about the SMART goals?
You mean with the abbreviation, right? Amit, specific, measurable.
Specific, measurable, achievable. R is for
Reliable
realistic.
or
We should not
Testable.
have unrealistic goals. And very important is time bound. The time bound, because if we do not have the timelines to achieve something, there is a good chance it will never happen. Have you heard the phrase, the work expands in proportion to the time available? If you have something, if you have the time foundation of 1 month to deliver something, you will do it. If you have the time foundation of 2 months to do it, you will still do it, but in the 2 months time. So that's why being the time bound is very important. So with this, we have actually created a project charter, and then we go to the value stream mapping. Basically, this is how the value stream mapping looks like. As I saying, we should actually start from very high level process first. Starting point. What is happening here? Yeah, I'm trying to annotate, but it is doing something else. Yeah, the starting point. So first you make the boxes of the process: A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, and I. Basically, A, B, C se leke till I, you will get the information from your flowcharts. I am assuming that on whatever process you are trying to start your value stream mapping, you already have a flowchart of it. If you don't have, sit with the operator and first make a flowchart. And out of that flowchart, you will get the stages A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Okay. Once you have added made this high level of the process flow, how the value is moving from start to end through the process, then the second thing that you need to add is this one: delays. Wherever in your process you need to stay for a while to get some further information for someone, you have sent a query to the vendor, you are trying to receive it back, or there is a script that is running in the ERP system, you are waiting for that to run. There is a delay because of the approvals that is required from someone else. All these delays will be counted, and then it will be marked in the red delta. Then you, wherever applicable, mention the tools being involved in this process. And the next step would be break these A, B, C, D high level steps into the small 1 to 10-minute steps here. And the sum of all these steps should be equal to this green box. Basically, what I am trying to do is I am adding the time element to my process. Now I know on which process step, what is the time I'm spending.
Hi, Amit. It's really going interesting, but I just want to check on how much more time it's going to take, because we have ended our regular time, 8:30.
I know. Yeah, because I'm so optimistic. I mean, so enthusiastic. I cannot.
Yeah,
How will
I
that?
understand. So just
Five,
let us know how
yeah.
much more time it's going to take.
Because now we are taking an example, so it should not take more than 5 to 7 minutes.
Awesome. Okay, sure.
I'm really telling now that how the value stream mapping is done and how do we. So this case study will help to understand the perspective. Good. All right. So once we have actually split all these larger boxes into the small steps, now the next step is to sit with the team and do the color coding. And how do we do the color coding is, as I told you, mark, first of all mark your green step. Those are the absolute value to the end customer. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So you will say up to 5 to 10% of the step only out of your process will be marked as value. don't worry if this is not a process audit. Sometimes what happens when you do the value stream mapping with the operators, you will always find that they are a little bit of concern that you are masking my 80 to 90% of the process steps as the
Your
you
voice
will
is
see.
gone.
Sorry, yeah, I hope I'm audible. You will find so you may come across the resistance from your teammates that only 5 to 10% of the steps are being marked as value. It means am I doing everything as waste? You need to make them sure that it is not a process audit. We are trying to identify the opportunity areas, and it is not that we are going to eliminate everything that we are going to mark as waste here. Typically, to start with, if you even are able to remove only 20 to 30% of the steps from the process, that is good enough. We do not say that 100% of the waste that we will identify will be eliminated. That is not the lean principle. So what I am trying to say is that even if you find only 5 to 10% of the process step as value, don't worry. Lean does not say that we are going to re-engineer altogether the process, or we are going to eliminate the resource. Be confident to the next steps. So first you mark all the green steps, and then rest everything that is not adding value to the end customer, mark them as red. If you have something because of the process derivation, because your ERP works in that way, or your production line is designed in that way, mark them as yellow or gray or whatever color you want, and those steps will not be touched. We will only touch the waste step. Those are marked as red. Then what we do next is in the value stream mapping is, because now we have done identified all the values and waste, we basically do brainstorming with the team against each of the identified waste. We ask them the solutions. So basically a matrix that is called ease impact matrix or EI matrix. It is created, and all of the solutions that team has done, you need to make this kind of graph for them. If you see at the bottom, we are talking about the efforts from low to high. And if we talk about the impact of that particular change that you are proposing, it is low to high. So what typically happens, if something, we split that into 4 quadrants, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Quadrant number 1 is the one where effort is low and impact is high. It goes into the category of just do it, because with the minimum effort, we have identified few things. Those are significantly improving my productivity. Good. Is something having high impact? This is HH quadrant, high impact and high effort. Typically, I do take it as a Six Sigma project, because it is a long-term something that I need to do. Here, the efforts are also high. Something that has high effort but low, we say it HL. Don't do it. You don't need to worry about it. And then something have low impact and the effort is also low. They are called low hanging fruits. We still do it. We'll say that, okay, go ahead and do it. Fine. So we have 2 areas. Those need to be done immediately. The quadrant number 1 and quadrant number 4. Quadrant number 2 will be low term project, and quadrant number 3, don't do it, because it have high efforts but no impact on the process. And after that, you make your future state value stream mapping. You will see less number of reds here, more number of greens. It means we have made some changes in the process. Those are positive impacting to your customer. This is your future state VSM with the smaller process times, much lesser cycle time now. This is RSEI matrix. This is more on the implementation side, who will implement what, and the final outcome of your project should be shown in the tangible benefit table, where you will show that what was the old state, what is the new state, what was the old cycle time, 485 minutes, the new cycle time is 266 minutes. I have improved it by 55%. That is a very quick and high level example, but of course value stream mapping requires more efforts, but I think that was good enough for a high level idea. And that concludes my 1 hour overview. We may talk about this for hours, but with the limited time, this is what I planned for the day. So over to you, Manjunath. Any questions from the team?
Thank you, Amit, for that practical example. Right, many times we talk a lot about value stream mapping, but not with a concrete example. Right, I think this really helped out. Folks in the call, if you have any questions to Amit, please do unmute yourself and you can ask. Amit, maybe you can share your email ID or phone number if you're okay in the chat window. If people have any queries, maybe you can also post your LinkedIn profile so that people get connected and we can discuss it further. Yeah, here is Amit's email ID, amitguy82@gmail.com. So thank you so much, Amit, on behalf of Agile Voters for joining and sharing your practical insights about value stream mapping, which is one of the very key element or a tool for all lean and agile practitioners. So with that, we come to the end of today's session. Thank you, folks, for joining and active participation as always. Every Saturday, 7:30, same link, same time. We all meet and share and learn from each other. With that, we come to the end of today's session, but we are going to be here for another couple of minutes. If folks have any questions, queries, or ideas and suggestions, we can continue doing that.
Yeah, yes, Manjunath ji,